Which one? Okay, you're not far. Cherry Tree Hill is 750 feet, but that's not the second highest point. Is Mount Misery at 1,093 feet. Now the valley that separates us from Hillaby is called Bell Plain. Bell Plain is the end of the line for the old railway line. So just behind us here, a few hundred yards away, is where the train was turned around on a turntable similar to the one we have here. The train line ran from Bridgetown in the southwest of the island across four parishes, to the eastern point, East Point Lighthouse, and then it ran up the east coast. So just pause and take something in. I just want you to pause and absorb something. That beautiful view you were looking at. Can you imagine? That was our railway. Barbados had the most beautiful coastal railway, or at least one of the most beautiful railways in the world. Why did they build a railway on the east coast? Well, 160 years ago, Victorians believed in something called miasma. They thought that stale or stagnant, putrid air was the source of all illness. Now, the west coast of Barbados is called our Gold Coast and Platinum Coast. You find Sandy Lane, you find Royal Westmoreland. $1 million mansions, $1 billion golf courses. But 160 years ago, the west coast was a disease-infested swamp, a place of pestilence. In fact, the first manager of the railway died within 3 months of arrival on the island from yellow fever. So they had good reason to avoid swampy areas, such as the west and south coast. The east coast, on the other hand, was considered healthy. They would go and stay at what were called health resorts. Let me name some of them. The Atlantis Inn, the Edgewater Inn, the Beachmount Hotel, the Tenby. Further south, you've all probably heard of Sam Lord's Castle, which was once the premier hotel in Barbados, and of course the Crane Railway Hotel and Casino. Now, before the train line was built, to get to these refreshing zones, you would have to walk. How many of you would enjoy a 2 to 3 day walk in the hot sun and pouring rain to go and see the East Coast? Anybody? No. The train did the same journey in 1 hour and 20 minutes. I don't even think the buses today can compete with the old railway. So let's go for a ride. Instead of me rattling out bits of history, I'll take you on a virtual train ride from Bridgetown to Bathsheba. Let's go. Now, there were 3 classes of passengers on the old train. Now, usually the back of the train would be sold out. Why was the back of the train? Because this is where I would have bought my ticket. And the back of the train was 1 penny. You can't beat that deal. 1 copper penny from Bridgetown to Bell Plain. Wow. 3rd class. I'm only for my story. Welcome aboard. This would have been the most populous part of the train. If you had a few more pennies that you wish to spend. 2nd class, welcome on board. So you know what direction I'm heading in. Let me fix my hair. Ladies and gentlemen, the preserve of the privileged few. 1st class, thank you for gracing us with your presence. So a train for everybody. Alright, so our train would have been sold out. I want you to imagine, on these excursion Sundays, the train was sold out. There's no room left inside. We leave from Fairchild Street. That's the present day site of a bus terminal. That was the original train station. We would cross the Constitution River twice and head east uphill. Now, Bridgetown sits at sea level. So the train had to go uphill to get out of Bridgetown. We would head through Welch's, Carrington Village, My Lord's Hill, Kingston Woods, Station Hill. You hear a common theme, right? Hill, hill, hill. All the way up to the Bell Plantation in St. Michael. That's where the modern ABC highway crosses the old train line on its journey east. I will name some of the train stations as we head eastwards into St. George. Ruin, Buckley, Windsor, Carrington, Sunbury, Bushy Park, and 3 Houses. Those weren't just train stations, of course. These were also sugar factories. Guess who paid for the railway?
The factory.
Was it the IMF? Was it the Chinese? No. It was, in fact, the sugar industry. Now, let me explain. This railway line was very expensive to build because they had 98 bridges to construct. And we're going to get to one of the features of the railway soon. That was the most difficult piece of railway line in Barbados. So the train would make its way all through St. George, Christchurch, east into St. Philip, 3 Houses, and on to Consett Point. Concept point I can see from here, especially today. It's a cliff that sticks out in the sea. It's give or take about 100 feet tall. Now trains are not known for cliff diving. So they had to build or cut a passage through the rock, otherwise known as a cutting. Concept cutting. Now imagine having to cut 100 feet of rock for over a mile. Something like 20 feet wide. Even today, that would be a huge engineering project, but back then no jackhammers, no bulldozers, no rippers, no graders, no jackhammers, no excavators. How do you think they got that trench dug? Okay, in first class, someone said do it by hand. Any other suggestions? They did have one power tool.
Dynamite.
Dynamite, blow the rock up, that's right, they'd load the rock up and blow it up, and then they'd have to send in a crew of men to clear the waste away, so it was only half the work done. Now this material was not put to waste. This railway was 24 miles long, and in 24 miles, guess how many bridges they had to cross? 98 bridges. 98, so that's why this railway was quite expensive to build. Barbados is relatively flat, but we do have a lot of gullies, so the bridges were built across them. Now the train line, concept cutting opened finally in 1883 after 3 years of construction, and it was the steepest narrow gauge railway ever laid. Let me repeat that. Barbados had the steepest railway in the world in 1883. Getting down the hill was easy once the brakes were working, but it was getting back up the hill that the challenge came. Now most railways, you would have something called a banking locomotive. This is an engine at the back that would come and push the heavy trains up the hill. It would just give enough assistance in that area, but that would have made the tickets more expensive. They would have had to build another train station and a place to store the locomotive and hire more train drivers. It just wasn't practical at the time. One engine had to do, the engine at the front. You'd hear the locomotive struggling up the cutting. I think I can. I think I can. Chug, 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 chug. Chug, 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 chug. Just like some of the buses today, when the train was full, it didn't make it up the hill. Now passengers, this is the 1800s. They don't have cell phones. They don't have Facebook to complain to. There's no road or taxi coming to pick you up. Your friend isn't going to pick you up either. How are we going to get back to Bridgetown? Any suggestions, second class?
Donkey.
Walk, okay, second class said they're going to walk to Bridgetown. That's 14 miles. First class, what do you think we ought to do?
Donkey. Pull the train up the hill.
One said they're going to pull the train up the hill. She's going to ride a donkey.
Donkey cart.
Come on, man. Okay, so all the suggestions that we have so far, except for pulling the train, which I don't know how that would work. Pulling the train is on the right track. What's the opposite of pulling?
Pushing.
Fantastic idea. That way nobody gets left behind. Because we didn't have any rope to pull it anyway. Second class, will you push the train up the hill for us? Oh dear. Where were the most tickets sold?
Bottom of the class.
Third class. So you know what the old book says, many hands make
Light work.
Third class, we need your help today. Please help us. Please help us push the train up the hill. Now before you riot, I'm going to get some help for you. Listen, second class, these people here are starting to get all funny. Now what can you do to help them? They're good people after all. Look, they said they might help us push the train. What can we do to help them? Is there anything you could do?
Get off the train. Get off the train.
Oh my goodness. They said that some of the ladies are upgrading to first class. Okay, I can't argue with that. For the rest of you, listen. Could you get out of the train at least and make it lighter?
Yes.
And cheer them on. Go on, you can do it. Push! Hey. Now the whole point of the exercise was not to push the train up the hill. It was to get all of the weight off the train. The locomotive did most of the work. But wait a minute, y'all hear complaining? I hear it. It's coming from the front. Oh dear, that's the bougie people. Oh dear, what's that you said, first class? You have important places to go and important people to meet. My humblest apologies at this temporary delay. Now what could we possibly offer you?
Water. Rum.
Thank you. Water? You belong in third class. First class, of course, will be offered a complimentary refreshing beverage. Now can you imagine the gall of it? They're getting a cool drink while we push the train. But this is quite unjust. But don't worry. Now I hope some of you looked at the pictures in the train station. They had huge puncheons of rum on the train. A puncheon is like a big, ginormous barrel. You think they could drink all that rum by themselves?
Yes.
No.
That's not a challenge. But yes, first class will share the rum with the rest of us once we get to the top of the hill. So that's what they did. They bribed them with rum and it worked. Now the train almost had a party atmosphere. People would share food, they would share drinks, they would share stories. But there's one unique feature of the train I'll mention before we go. Anybody ever catch bus in Barbados? Anyone ever catch the bus, minibus? Is that okay? Good.
Many times.
Do we use bus stops religiously on this island?
No.
No.
They stop anywhere.
In Barbados, for the benefit of those of you who don't know, you just stand up on the side of the road and wave your hand and something stops. Where do you think that cultural phenomenon started? On the train. The British brought it here. It was called the call stop. And let me demonstrate how you caught the train according to the Barbados Railway. You stood up alongside the track anywhere. No train station, no platform. You'd wait for the Bridgetown special. Oh, look, here it comes. How do I get on it? I don't have a train station. Okay, hold on. First you flag down the train just like we do with the buses. But there's a difference between stopping a minibus, a little 2-ton bus, and 140 tons of train. The train cannot stop that quickly. It just can't. So what the driver would do is he would look at the person waiting to catch the train and he would make a quick estimation in his head how fast they can run. They would then slow the train down enough, and the idea was you then run alongside the moving train and you jump on board and catch the train. Now they had running boards all along the sides of the train to make it easy for you to do that. If the train was sold out, there's no room left inside. Will the conductor refuse my ticket? You'd see the trains arriving in Bridgetown with people on the inside and all down the sides of the train.
Exactly.
The railway ran until 1937, and when it closed, it ended 56 years of public transportation in Barbados. 2/3 of the island were connected by this railway. Look at the map, good. When it was shut, there'd be no more excursions to Bathsheba, no more trips to Chalky Mount, or quick rides to Three Houses and St. Philip. It was over. The railway would be a devastating loss for the island. It would take another 30 years to bring public transportation back to the East Coast. In 1966, the first Prime Minister, Errol Barrow, the Right Excellent Errol Barrow, and Her Majesty the Queen opened the East Coast Main Road that allowed public transport to return to the East Coast. You can see there's a huge boulder in Cahill to commemorate this event. So there you have it. If you want to see, you get a little idea of what the railway was like, a taste of it, I cannot recommend enough. Go to the Roundhouse in Bathsheba. That was a railway hotel. It's still there today. You can park there and walk north along the old train line past the abandoned Edgewater Inn. They've just rebuilt and reopened the Joes River Railway Bridge. You can now walk right across where the trains ran. It gives you a sense of the atmosphere, the scenery, the drama that was the Barbados Railway. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed my history speech. Thank you and goodbye. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now for those of you with the lime green armband, our next stop will be your stop, the main station. And for those of you with the purple armband, we'll take you on another quick stop to the main house, the Great House, for the rest of your tour.
Oh, you want to say all aboard? Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you very much. You heard the young lady. All aboard!
All aboard. All aboard.
Right.
All aboard, Kathy. Baby, come. Baby, come. Come, baby, come. Come, quick. Did you say, oh, are you riding the train? Are you riding the train? Are you driving the train or just riding the train? Just put it sideways and zip it up. Are you riding the train or driving the train? Toot, 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 toot. Say, driving the train, driving the train. Toot, 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 toot. Say hi, Uncle Mikey. Why not? Hi, Uncle Mikey. Hi, Uncle Mikey. She's looking at herself. Who's that? That's Mikey. Look, he's driving the train. Uncle Mikey. Uncle Patrick. Mommy. Say Sadie,
No.
and grandgrandson.
What?
No, it's the picture from
Where are the monkeys?
the one you left. That's mine, you, that's mine, Greg.
Church we have.
No, they're probably over at the thing eating, right? They get fed.
Who's that? Who's all those people, Sadie?
You have the reserve. They're over there on those trees right across the parking lot.
I might go back home and find some of them on the trees in the backyard.
Yeah, we're gonna drive now. We got donut on your nose.
They didn't need much, wood.
We're gonna drive,
You can see
ready?
that they wanted there to get the thing down the hill, just roll down the hill now.
Now we don't go up a hill now though?
Oh, yeah.
Window. And then we're going. Look, we're going. Let's go. How pretty. How pretty.
Yeah, those are some good dogs. I think Mikey has one up here.
Okay, look at the smoke. Look. Come, stand up. Stand up here. Yeah, stand her up and see the steam. Here, put that mother. Here. Steam, steam, steam. See the steam? Come back here. Why? They put right in the train. Set up the lights. There he is. Look. Oh, yeah. Yeah, got it.
again, ladies and gentlemen, as we're making our way to the main station for our penultimate stop this afternoon. Those of you doing the train only, ladies and gentlemen, this will be your stop. You're waiting for the Crescent train platform. Ladies and gentlemen, as we make our way past the Silk Common Tree, ladies and gentlemen, for those going to the Great House, we get to see the other indigenous tree along the Silk Common Tree, that is the Sandbox Tree. Both for cultural significance to the island of Barbados and of course to the former indigenous peoples, that would be the Taino. Barbados is what's known as King Sugar. Barbados is what's known as King Sugar. We exported some 200,000 tons of sugarcane per annum from the shores to the United Kingdom. And then they would definitely be exported elsewhere. However, after the exploits, ladies and gentlemen, of Brazil, America, and Cuba, ladies and gentlemen, Barbados lost some of that moniker, especially to the big figure. We're making our way to a penultimate stop this afternoon, and right next to the main station is our training shed. Simplex at the front, the yellow one, he's used for track maintenance. Behind him, the Hudson Badgers, number 14, number 50. And betwixt those, ladies and gentlemen, we have Winston, our listening book. And we are coming to a stop this afternoon, for those of you doing the train only this afternoon. And for those of you who aren't on the Great House and you're not returning, this is your punch.
Thanks for watching. Again, and have a blessed evening. Thanks so much, Victor.
You're welcome. Next stop, ladies and gentlemen, Croquet Lawn at St. Nicholas.